Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Community Preservation Act Committee on December 19th, 2024. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. We're meeting remotely via Zoom as permitted by the town and state. This meeting is being recorded and will appear on the Town of Amherst CPA webpage. I'm going to call on people now to make sure that we can hear you and that you can be heard. So let's go through the order. I'm Sam. Tim.
Present.
Matt.
Present.
Katie.
Present.
Jason.
Present.
Robin.
Present.
David.
Present.
And Bob Saul again communicated to me that he was going to be half hour late or so. We need to have a minute taker for every meeting. Do we have a volunteer to take minutes for this meeting? Matt. Thank you for volunteering. I appreciate it. Well, let's start with the first order on our agenda, which is public comment. I'm not seeing anyone in the audience, but for any town meeting, it's required and desirable for that matter to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on any of the items in the meeting, or for that matter, anything with the CPA committee. I'm going to wait about 30 seconds, maybe a minute tops, in case somebody's having connection issues, or if somebody's seeking to call in, they can try to reach us that way. Let's give it a little bit here. All right, so we don't have any community members in the audience, so I will close the public comment portion of this meeting. The next item on our agenda is to approve any outstanding minutes. I don't believe we have any outstanding minutes to consider at this point. We've approved the minutes for most of our prior meetings. We will await the minutes from November 7th and last week's December 12th meeting. And then this meeting today will be a third one that we'll have a need to approve at a later time. So moving right along, the next item on our agenda is to review any financials, etc., as needed. So I'll turn it over to Holly.
Okay, well, there really hasn't been any changes to the financials. We're still looking at the same numbers at this point. The only thing that was asked was that we look at the town projects and review those. So Dave Zomack, myself, planner Nate Malloy, and Amy Brzezinski and Alan Snow from DPW sat down and went over the town projects earlier this week. And I don't know, Dave, if you want to share, or do you want me to just share what we're proposing that the town can make for changes? So
yeah, it's helpful to display the spreadsheet.
That's what I'm trying to do right this second.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to have Holly share that spreadsheet and quickly go through that. And then if I need to annotate anything with regard to the conversation we had, but we did come together as a group, and there is some, we feel there's some flexibility in some of these numbers. And I think that will be reflected in some of the reduced asks to try to help
adjust that spreadsheet, Holly, such that I guess it may need to be a little wider, or perhaps shorter to delineate the number towards the bottom where we have a summation. Is that possible?
Yeah, well, yes, but then you're not going to be able to get the full thing, it's gonna have to go a lot smaller.
I think this is good.
So we'll have to do a lot of scrolling as we decide on numbers, and then the numbers at the bottom will adjust. So at this point, what the town is proposing is that we drop the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust to, oh my gosh, to 300,000. That would save 200,000 on this first project number 1. On the War Memorial Bathhouse, the town is proposing we drop that to 500,000, which would save another 250,000. And then I believe it was 30,000 off of trails and footbridges to bring that one to 120, and conservation and recreation signs to 90,000. My cat is standing on my keyboard, so I can't change any numbers. Hang on. And changing the rec signs to 90,000. Correct, Dave?
Correct.
I have a suggestion, Holly, which might make it helpful for those of us looking at it. If we could perhaps add a column where we, between column J and K, where we reference those numbers that you're indicating. And in addition, if we can confirm what the gap between the initial dollar amounts requested and the currently available funds.
So the current gap is about 471,000. And oof. What I was going to do, if I can get my computer to work here, is I was just going to change them here, because these feed to the formulas at the bottom.
Although then we lose the originals.
Well, they're still over in the other columns that I
Oh, okay,
updated.
very good, very good.
Holly, you put 900,000 in for the signs instead
Oh,
of
that's gonna be a big one. Thank you.
That sounds good to me.
I'm sure.
better be some nice signs.
Okay, so, oh, no.
Jason, as a conservation rep, you're not supposed to point those things out. We should just let it ride.
You know, if only we're that easy, right? The
So-
spreadsheet says it, so the money's got to be there.
Nobody would have
I
noticed.
believe that will change the recommended numbers. With those changes, we would actually have about a $22,000 surplus at that point.
Can
with
we
those numbers.
highlight the background on that shortfall or surplus in funding, perhaps in light green, just so that as we scroll up and down, if we make any alterations, we can see it relatively quickly. I can see it now, but I think it would be nice to have it stand out. Thank you.
Same.
So if I understand correctly, Holly, you're indicating with the feedback from the town, if the town recommended funding or prioritization, if those numbers were utilized instead of the initial request, if the town adjusted proposals were included, there would be a surplus of 22,539. Is that correct? We would have a surplus. Am I saying that correctly?
Correct.
All right. Can we scroll up again? All the way to, oh, I'm looking at the wrong chart. The one with the projects, excuse me. Okay. So with the numbers that are currently displayed in column J, the net of that is a 22,000 surplus. I had, before we commence talking about the projects and the specifics of the potential numbers, I had two items that I think are things that we should be aware of. And one question is, do you happen to know, Holly, what our current administrative funds balance is approximately? Meaning, do we have how are we sitting for
We,
pending needs in the coming fiscal year?
we are perfectly fine. So I believe it was in FY 22 and 23, or in 23 and 24, we voted a $25,000 administrative expense to help cover things like signs and I can't quite remember what the other thing was that we wanted to set money aside for. So we currently have about $40,000 in administrative
Okay.
funds, and we spend approximately, just so that folks are aware, there is an annual membership fee for the CPA Coalition, which is a bit hefty. I think we paid about $4,300 this fiscal year to be part of that, and then just simply some advertising expenses. So the annual expenses are, about $5,000 just for normal membership dues and advertising that we need to do. There is still funds available, purchase additional signs, your CPA dollars at work signs that we've been hanging up around town. So there is plenty of money in the administrative funds. I think we can easily forgo another year without having to set aside any administrative funds, maybe possibly a couple more years, depending on what we decide to do with those administrative funds.
Thank you, Holly. And the other question that came to my mind is there are a few historic preservation projects. With private historic projects, there's a need or a requirement that we have a HPR, historic preservation restriction, affiliated with them. Now, two of the projects applications here have come before us previously, and those buildings, I believe, have had HPRs provided. And the two that I'm referencing are the JCA building and the the other one is the Dickinson Farmhouse. So in the past, we had set aside approximately $5,000 for legal fees for the generation of HPRs. So the question is, if these buildings have HPRs from a prior award, do we need to set aside additional funds separate from the requested amount to enable that HPR process? Dave, I see your hand is up. Zomac.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I know you reached out to me on this week, and I checked in with Nate Malloy, our senior planner, who is really kind of expert in all things historic, working with the Historical Commission. And my understanding is one HPR for for each of these different structures will suffice. You don't want to have layered HPRs. That's not how the state does it. That's not. So I think we're all set on both of these.
Oh, very good.
If you and the council decide to allocate funds to these respective structures, then we're covered with those HPRs.
All right, great. So those were the two non-project related questions that I had, the administrative fees and the HPRs. So I guess we have a number of projects here, and there were, separate from the funding, there were some questions that arose on the pool as well. And, perhaps if there's other information you'd like to share with us regarding the discussions that took place with the internal town staff regarding the awards, that might be helpful prior to our talking about the specific projects.
I'm happy to do that, Sam, with Holly's help, if that's okay.
That would be great.
Sure. Well, I'll try to be as brief as possible. I wish there was an equation that would work for this, or some, some model or something like that. But really, as Holly said, it's a bunch of town professional staff getting together, talking through these, realizing that, if the CPA committee would like to allocate all of the funds this year and try to fund as many of these projects as possible. We are, as always, trying to work with you and support you in that work you do. So we came together and said, kind of what if, we squeezed that or shrunk that, and to some degree, it's a professional judgment that we hope turns out okay. I'll give you one example on item number 7, the Mill River baseball fields. I sent a memo to Sam and to the committee some weeks ago and said, I had talked to Amherst Baseball and we'd had some conversations, and we said, let's see if we can do that electrical work for 80,000 or less. I talked to some of our engineering staff and they thought that was a conservative number. I'm hoping it's not 80. I'm hoping we don't even spend 80. I'm hoping we spend about 50, and we just don't even utilize that 30, and then that 30 is available next year for other good projects. So some of this is just based on professional input from engineers, our building commissioner, and our planning staff. So going through that list, I will say that town staff don't really feel like we speak for the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. However, in previous years, we work very, very closely with them. Nate Malloy and another one of our staff work with them every month and help them manage their funds and their projects. And the feeling is that they often ask for 500,000 or more, and in previous years, that number through this kind of negotiated process has come down. So Nate was, if he hasn't already, was going to reach out to them, and he thought that they would be comfortable with a lesser number. They are going to be coming into some funds in the months ahead, having to do with some downtown development and some of our zoning that results in money going toward affordable units. So he thought their coffers would be replenished with other funds as well. Not saying that there is not a great need for affordable housing, but they thought they would be comfortable with that lower number. And then on some of the other ones, again, our communications manager met with you a few weeks ago and talked about the sign project. I think our indication there was that this might be the first pulse of money. I'd love to say that we could get all of the signs done for $100,000 or under, but we just won't know until we know. We have a great designer, and Sam showed you some wonderful pictures of those signs in process of design, but I have a good feeling that we'll be back in FY26 trying to button up that project. But I'm excited to say all over town, there'll be new signs at recreation areas and conservation areas, et cetera. I probably need that list, although you took it down. From memory, we reduced, what else did we reduce?
Trails and footbridges.
Trails and footbridges that's going to be an ongoing ask. I think I've said that before. I answered a question some weeks ago from the committee on, there's, hundreds of thousands of dollars of need out there on trails and bridges. So reducing it by X is not the end of the world, and we'll be back. That'll probably be a regular ask annually.
I see that Holly has, she's not in the meeting at present. I think she had a connection issue of
Okay.
some sort. That must be what occurred,
Yeah.
because I don't see her.
Yeah, we'll give her a minute. The other thing I just wanted to emphasize is, as you know, in these meetings, we also talk about, and we'll get to the War Memorial bathhouse. But we always try to try to find matching funds, whether it's historic funds or open space funds or affordable housing funds, recreation funds. We're always trying to match. I will say that it is always appreciated when the non-town projects also match and come to you with matching funds, because there are times when we are really just working diligently to find matching funds, and it's always nice for those NGOs or other historic projects to come with funds to seed what they plan to do. So it's always nice to kind of have that balance when town staff see those projects. So, and I know one of the projects did reduce their ask recently, so that's nice. While we wait for Holly, maybe I could talk a little bit about the bathhouse.
Oh, yeah, that
Um,
sounds good.
Amy Ruzecki, who is not able to join us tonight, she is our Assistant Superintendent of Public Works, and you've heard from her many times on recreation projects. She was part of that meeting. And in essence, I know there were some very specific questions about match, and I have them in front of me. Again, I guess I'm gonna fall back to, this is kind of a mosaic of potential matches. I can't say, and I don't think if Amy were here, she could say with any certainty, we will be able to pull all of this together. I know she responded with, a potential park grant match, a potential land and water conservation fund grant. But if you've been in the nonprofit world in particular, as I have, and I know some of you have, you're putting these together, trying to build from some base. And I think that's what the town is trying to do. Whether it's the previous ask and the allocation of 750 and now this 500, the goal is to build up some sort of a fund that we have for a few years here that we can then springboard into a land and water conservation fund grant, a park grant, some other matching from capital. And that discussion is kind of ongoing with the town manager, is how do we do that? And that's, I don't think with any certainty we can say that, one thing will match. We also have the uncertainty of a change in administration in Washington coming up in January. We just don't know how much how Land and Water Conservation Fund, all of these funds flow from the federal government to the state government. Amherst, Northampton, we've been very successful at getting funds in the last 10 years. We hope that will continue. There's no predictability in that. But the bottom line is we're trying to have some sort of a fund built up that we can use to build on in these conversations with state granting organizations. So we reduced it from 750 to 5, feeling as though if we got to 5 and we had the 750, that was a strong enough position to build from. This is going to be a couple of year effort to get to what, if we go with a fully new building, is a $4 million building in today's dollar. I don't know if we're a year and a half down the road, that number will grow with inflation. So that's kind of where we are. I wish I could be more exact. There are some unknowns on that. We will be working with Holly and our finance director and the joint capital planning committee on looking at capital over the next 3 to 5 years to say, is there any wiggle room to bring some money toward this project? If there is, great. I also wanted to clarify that this is only the building. Amy showed a vision of what could be around the building at the War Memorial Pool with the new track and field across the way and community field up on the hill. This is only for the building. And I know it seems like a large number, but if any of you are in this field or a field where you are building buildings and housing and tracks and fields, you will see some numbers that are pretty staggering. And again, the unpredictability of the cost of raw materials is anybody's guess after, the end of January. So I think I've said enough there. Happy to answer questions. I'm not trying to be vague. I'm simply being honest with where we are in that project.
Thank you, David. And these are public projects which were subject to public procurement and
Absolutely.
labor rates and everything else. Well, I'm going to let committee members raise their hands or ask questions about any of the comments and feedback that we've received from the town. At some point, it probably would be helpful for us to put the spreadsheet back up, but I see that Tim's hand is raised, so I'm going to call on Tim.
Did I miss, Dave? What is the total cost of the building at the bathhouse?
If we were to build that bathhouse in 2025, it would be $4 million.
Okay, that's what you had said previously. That's still the number. Okay, thanks.
And could I just say also that the design Amy is not here, but the design is, I don't remember the percentage in terms of how far the design is along, but basically we are not going to spend any more money until we have a solid plan for moving forward. So there's a 750, which is basically in the CPA accounts. If you vote for this additional 500, none of those funds will go anywhere until we have a project to move forward with. So not unlike the track and field. We did a very similar thing, a very similar approach. We didn't know where all the funds were going to come from for the track and field, but I'm happy to say that we are putting that project out to bid on in January. So
Is that going forward in January?
it is, yes.
Have you heard anything further? My understanding is the town council has yet to take up the July 29th award.
Well, I should have framed that. They do take that, they do take up the $800,000 request from CPA on, I believe it's January 14th.
Okay.
I feel very optimistic that, not to get sidetracked on the track and field, but
Yeah.
the chair asked me, but I feel very optimistic. We have town meeting commitments from Shutesbury and Pelham already in hand. They've already voted funds for that project, and Leverett will take it up in the spring, which is fine. We can work with that. So
That's great news, Dave.
anyway, not to,
Did you have follow-up on your?
I did. I did, Dave. In a previous meeting, there was some concern that that was a lot of money for only 2 months because the pool would be only open for 2 months. But my recollection is that that so-called quote bathhouse with bathrooms would be available in spring, fall for use by people who are using the athletic fields like the track and so on and so forth. Is that true, or is it going to be closed outside of the 2-month pool window?
no, that's absolutely true. It was designed to have internal and external facing bathrooms. So the public, there will be, bathroom entrances from the outside that would be available for school events, community events up on the fields, whether it be the football field, baseball, softball, and the new track and field complex. And in fact, again, linking these projects a little bit, when the track and field project went through the planning board, for instance, the planning board had very similar questions, how are we building a $4.5 million track and field complex without associated bathrooms? And there was robust discussion on that. And the short-term plan, of course, is the schools, if you will, the schools need to have restrooms available in the school during events when the new track and field complex is open. They'll be supplemented by porta potties, because we all know the bathhouse at that complex, there's only 2 options right now, or 3: porta potties, the high school, opening part of the high school, and then the restrooms way over near Triangle Street, which are clearly too far and do not meet ADA requirements for folks to get there. So yes, Tim, the short answer is these will have outward facing bathrooms for
Great.
other
Thank
events most of the year.
Jason,
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to follow up with that, Dave. You say most of the year, is it like 8 months out of the year or 6, or do we not have a good?
We don't really, with the changing weather patterns, again, in a real winter, we would actually, close these down because most of them are unheated, but it really depends on the temperatures moving forward in these mild winters we're having. So places like Mill River and Groff Park, it's really up to DPW to make that decision as to when temperatures get to a certain point that they need to drain water in unheated spaces to make sure pipes don't freeze.
So it's strictly a pipe freezing consideration, not like nobody's really using those fields much in the middle of winter.
I can't predict. Now, this won't be a turf field. So in the middle of winter, I don't expect there to be much use, and I don't think we will plow the track. I don't know that, whether with snow blow the track. I don't think we've gotten that far, but most turf fields, you can snow blow or plow those fields and have them be open, artificial turf. This will be a natural grass field, so we will not be clearing it in the winter and using it. So there shouldn't be any, for the most part, activity in the winter on those fields. Again, who can predict the New England winter any longer? We have a similar situation with the dog park. The dog park stays open as long as snow and ice do not cause us to close it for liability reasons and that we can't clear the walkways.
Other questions or comments regarding the adjustments to the proposal numbers that the town staff have presented to us? Any questions regarding those numbers or questions on the pool project for that matter? Tim, I see your hand is up again.
Sorry about that. We're going to go down project by project, but the North Cemetery fence, should we, right now it's on our list. Should we remove it from the list, we would have an extra $40,000. How would you be able to use that for the signs, do more signs more quickly, for example, or do more trails if we distributed that money amongst those items that you have reduced? And that's one question. Maybe I'm jumping the gun in terms of that $40,000 North Cemetery fence ask, but while we're at it, David reduced some of the other town projects. My question is, should we put some money back and then possibly not do or not approve the North Cemetery fence?
Well, we haven't gotten to that project.
I know, sorry. I didn't know quite when to ask it, but.
Well, but my understanding is that if funds are not, we have a set amount of funds that we can allocate, and
Right.
if they're not going to be allocated to any given project, whether it be the north fence or another, that those funds would be available for the committee. My assumption, and I can't speak for the town staff, is that if there were additional funds, whether it be for the trails and footbridges or the signs, they clearly have they've indicated a backlog of work and potential future needs. That's my thoughts on it. Dave, do you have a response to what
Sure, and
Tim?
I see, I would love to hear from Robin, but let me just say before, I hope you call on her. I'm really supportive of some fence project on North Amherst. I believe in the care and custody of our three cemeteries in South Amherst, the West Cemetery and North Amherst. I defer to Robin and the Historical Commission on, I know there are questions about the history or historical significance or not of that fence, but I believe in some project there. If the Historical Commission can guide us on that, I would not want to just, we did not recommend removing that funding. We defer to the Historical Commission on their expertise on guiding us on that. So I would again defer to Robin on more information there.
Thank you, Dave, and Tim, for your inquiry. Robin, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I would defer to the town in terms of priorities since it's a town project. The only thing that I wanted to mention while Dave was here was that the Historical Commission had requested to be able to engage with the town on design input. In the interim between the last meeting and this one, I did find some great, not visual representation, but great historical records of the fact that that town cemetery was fenced a long time ago. So we have written proof and we have some visual proof, and so we're in support of that. We would just like to weigh in on design, make that a condition of the award so that we can get the best possible historically appropriate fencing.
I think we'd be fine with that. So I think that's why town staff, when we met, did not suggest a reduction. I think a reduction is not even realistic there. I think that's a pretty low budget for that. So we kept it in there with the hope that we could work with the Historical Commission, as Robin has indicated.
So Robin, as a follow-up to your comment, if the committee were to seek to approve funding for the fence, whatever the dollar amount you referenced as a condition of the award, is that something that you would suggest be included in a motion? Or, and if so, might you contemplate in advance how such a motion might be made? Just so when the time comes, we're cognizant of, how we're doing it. Or would it be a collaborative effort after the fact on recognition that the town works with the Historical Commission anyway?
And I think we could put something simple into the motion.
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
engagement, not design review, but design engagement.
Okay, so we met last week. We gave our straw poll ratings to generate general awareness of our thoughts on the projects. We asked that the town, as the primary applicant in terms of total numbers of dollars asked, as well as the majority of the projects, come back to us with their thoughts on which projects could be reduced or might be reduced in their own prioritized manner, as opposed to saying this is our most important project 1 through 11. They came back with a functioning, pragmatic method from their perspective of what numbers they believe will work in consultation with all the staff. So we've seen that here. And I guess our task as a committee is to contemplate what's before us on the chart that's being displayed. We do have some numbers with town input that provide a surplus of around 22,000. But I'd like to enable committee members to speak on any particular project prior to initiating votes on every one. So maybe we can go project by project, and not everyone has to speak necessarily. We can do what we did previously, where if any member wishes to make a comment, because I believe it's helpful for committee members to hear from others who have thoughts on a particular project. So as a process, I think we go from the first project through the 11th to open up comments from committee members. And then based upon what we hear, we can consider the overall package, and then we would make motions individually. So I'm going to go forward and ask committee members if they have, any member wishes to make a comment regarding starting with the Affordable Housing Trust project and the town feedback numbers, which are listed at 300,000. Any committee member wishes to make a comment, say anything, or even ask a question, just raise your hand. Matt.
This is just a comment. I appreciate what Dave said about this Nate Malloy feeling that with other possible sources of funds that that the Affordable Housing Trust will be well capitalized, that 300,000 is sufficient. So I'm happy with that.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll make a comment, which would be that I think if we were to have additional surpluses from our discussions, I think the Affordable Trust would be a good location for any surplus funds to be utilized if we have any. I see that we have a 22,000 currently. They do have a lot of projects, and sometimes they come up quickly, but I share Matt's thoughts on the feedback of internal discussions from the town staff who really have their ear to the ground and the awareness of what's going on with all the different needs. The next project would be the Amherst Historical Commission Modern Architectural Survey. Any comments from anyone on the committee? I'll say, as I said in the straw poll, it's a low ask. And it's part, as Robin said, it's part of the charter mission of the Historic Commission. The next project is the Jewish Community Association, Jewish Community of Amherst, excuse me, Historic Preservation of Stained Glass Windows. Would any committee member like to make a comment regarding that project and the dollar amount of the request and what's in column J? Okay. Amherst Cemetery Association, Dickinson Farmhouse, they have reduced their request on a couple of occasions this cycle due to internal fundraising. So the current amount that they're requesting of CPA dollars is $88,520. Any comments from anyone related to this project? I would just have a question for Robin relating to the Historic Commission. We saw your rankings of the projects, and this was up there with the Jewish Community of Amherst Glass Windows. When this project came before us a few years ago for the roof, we had some questions about the chimneys and other aspects of it. I think it might have been the woodwork internally, but I just want to confirm, did I hear correctly that the Historic Commission is in favor of this project as submitted and would like to see it proceed?
Yep, absolutely. It was number 2 on our list. We feel that we have a really strong steward in Rebecca Frick's management of this preservation project. The preservation restriction and the rules of CPA require these projects to fall within the Secretary's the Interior standards for rehabilitation. So there's that's a sort of a mechanism to make sure that no character defining features are altered, that things are done in the right way. So big thumbs up.
Thank you, Robin. Tim, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to, for the record, say that I, as one committee member, am appreciative of a private non-town project seeking fundraising to help and thus helping out the CPA dollars because we always have needs, and we really appreciate their undertaking that, not wholly relying on CPA dollars.
Thank you, Tim. The next project is the Town of Amherst, the North Cemetery Fence. Would anyone like to make comment on that? You had spoken previously about it, Tim. I don't know if you have additional comments or want to reiterate.
No, I would just say I'm convinced by my colleagues' commentary.
Okay. Would anyone else like to make a comment on the or share any thoughts on the Amherst Cemetery Association or any questions? I'm not seeing any hands raised. If for some reason you can't raise your hand, feel free to speak up.
I see David's hand raised, I think.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? I couldn't see it in the background. Sorry about that, Dave. Thank you.
No, I'm a little surprised at the comments that's being made about the North Cemetery. I don't know whether I'm missing something, but I believe this is the second or third request that we have for the cemetery. And as I mentioned last week or several weeks ago, that when you pass the North Cemetery, it seems as though no one is concerned, no one is interested, and it's just a cemetery that's over there that I see it's being used occasionally, but all of the fence around it is falling down, and nothing's happening. And it's been this way for about 5 years. I think we, or I don't know whether the Historical Society or the Cemetery Committee need to pay some attention to that.
Thank you, David. Any other comments regarding the North Cemetery project? Okay. Dave Zomack.
I was just going to agree with David that, and I said it before, I think there are many important folks through Amherst history buried in all three of our cemeteries, and there is no real funding. I mean, the care for those cemeteries falls to DPW, to the Trees and Grounds division, which is overseen by Alan Snow, and he does the best job he can with the limited resources he has. But I think through the years, previous CPA committees have recommended money for headstone restoration and some fencing at the replacement at the West Cemetery. But as I said before, and I think Robin would agree, these are historic parts of our community with some of the most important former residents here and many people do go there and visit and learn, and families, of course, go visit their loved ones. So I think we have an obligation to maintain them. And I believe some of the falling down chain link fence on the back of the cemetery will be coming down anyway. This is to really put something on the front. And as Robin said, I believe the Historical Commission has found more references and more through their research, more data to support that a fence has been there for many generations. So I agree with you, David, and just think we should spend some of this funding on maintaining these.
I had not paid attention previously. Bob Saul is joining us. Bob, if you've been listening from the audience, forgive me for not seeing your hand raised previously.
No problem, Sam. Sorry I'm late, everybody.
Well, we're glad you're here. And just in case you missed anything, if you look under column J on the spreadsheet, the town of Amherst staff got together, discussed the proposals and our request of them, that they consider how project dollar requests might be lessened to accommodate some of the gaps we face. And you can see the numbers in column J, primarily the Affordable Housing Trust, the Amherst War Memorial Bathhouse. That was from 500 to 300 for the Affordable Trust, from 750 to 500 for the bathhouse, and then 10,000, I believe, on the parks and trails, and 30,000 on the parks, excuse me, the signage, 10,000, and 30,000 on the trails and footbridges. Those are reductions. So anyway, we're going project by project here in case committee members have any comments that they wish to make on a given one. David Williams, your hand is still raised. Do you have something you'd like to say at the moment, or just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone? Speak up if you do, please. I'll go to the next project, which is the Town of Amherst Recreation and Conservation signs, which currently has a number from the town of 90,000. Would anyone like to make a comment on this project? So I would just say, from my perspective, this would be a second option for allocating additional funds based on the projected need over time and what I perceive to be great value in the signage of town. That's just my opinion. Any other committee member comments? I'm not seeing any. Next project is the War Memorial, the Town of Amherst Mill River baseball fields, the $80,000 request, which had originally been 120,000 and has been reduced. Would anyone like to make a comment or question regarding the Mill River baseball fields? Not seeing any hands. Okay, Town of Amherst War Memorial Bathhouse currently has a town number of 500,000. Would any committee members like to make a comment, question, or thoughts on this project proposal? Feel free to say what you're thinking. Bob?
Yes, I'm curious that that's a big reduction from the town, Dave. And what is being left out and what are the implications of that $250,000 reduction?
Thanks, Bob. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the meeting, but we did come together, staff, Amy Rozecki, who has been leading this project for DPW. And we really feel as though, you know, I really gave kind of just my honest take on this, that we're trying to pull together enough funding. And again, I think there are some parallels here to what we did with the track and field, is to pull together some funding over the course of a couple of fiscal years to use as leverage, as match for both town capital funds, we hope, some outside grants like Land and Water Conservation Fund and Park Grant. Those are two programs that we've been successful at leveraging funds from. They paid for things like the Groff Park, helped pay for things like the Groff Park Spray Park and Playground, the North Common, and the list goes on and on. So we really, to help the committee bridge their gap, we felt as though the reduction from 750 to 500 really wouldn't affect us in the short term here. So we posed that reduction to try to help. Again, you know, this is gonna, like the track and field, this is gonna be, we're gonna have to stretch to try to do this. And again, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, you know, the community is going to have to make a decision at some point in the future as to whether this investment makes sense in 2025, 26, 27, given all the other capital needs in town. We have 2 outdoor pools, 1 indoor pool. We have a school on the horizon. We have the Jones Library in play, and a DPW and fire, and all the other capital needs. So I think it's going to be a community decision. Again, these funds would not go out the door until we have a project, and neither would the funds that were previously allocated toward this project. So it's going to be town staff rolling up their sleeves, and we're going to have some hard conversations with various committees, from the Recreation Commission to the town council. Are we committed to 2 pools, and are we committed, and therefore are we committed to this bathhouse? That's the long and short of it.
Thank you, Dave. Tim?
Yeah, speaking of the term bathhouse and going back to previous discussions, I don't know, is there any possibility we can change that term to be something like comfort station or something like that, which would give people an understanding that it's being used for more than just a bathhouse for the pool? I'm just throwing that out, just nomenclature when these things come up, so people understand a little bit better what's used.
That's, if I could, that's a great comment, Tim. Thank you. And I'm sure, I know Katie has been in the world of fundraising and whatever. And yes, municipal employees, we may not be the most creative in terms of our selling of a product. The bathhouse, it's not, it doesn't have a lot of pizzazz, right? So we hear you on that, and we probably should rename this something else to kind of capture the excitement of all this building could be for both the site and the pool itself.
War Memorial Community Pool Bathhouse? It's just a thought. Okay. Next item, unless there's...
We need help from professionals who can help us frame this and pitch this project.
Well, you do have a communications person now, so right.
Amherst Trails and Footbridges, the updated dollar request amount is 120,000 from the town. Comments from, questions from committee members? Okay. Not seeing any. Again, Town of Amherst Groff Park Accessibility Design Study Project. The amount remains requested at 100,000. Any questions, comments, anything anyone wishes to say on this project? And the last one on the list is the Town of Amherst Parks and Equipment, currently listed at $90,000. Any committee members wish to make a comment on this at this time? We've spoken of this project and the others, of course, previously at our last meeting when we did straw ratings. So not seeing that, what we're looking at here under column J is a series of updated dollar amount requests based upon feedback from the town. We've opened the discussion for anyone who wished to comment on any of these. I didn't hear suggestions of changing dollar amounts. If you can scroll down, Holly, further on the spreadsheet, I do want to bring attention to what we're displaying as a current funding need and gap. And my understanding is that with the numbers that we just looked at in the column J, that there remains a surplus of 22,539.48. I could say approximately, but that's pretty accurate, even though it's an estimate. It's that we can allocate. So it seems to me a discussion regarding what we might want to do with these funds of 22,539.48 makes sense at this time. Would any committee member wish to comment on the existing spreadsheet surplus? Matt?
I'm happy to carry forward a surplus into the following year from my point of view, but it's not a huge number, so either way.
Bob?
I'm with you, Sam, on your previous comments about the signs. I feel like those are underfunded and that has it being bang for a buck sooner than later.
Katie?
Oh, there we go. Thank you. I did want to say I totally and wholeheartedly agree with Tim's suggestion about renaming, because I don't think there's a lot of call for supporting bathhouses these days. But anyway, I was thinking that putting it in the reserves as Matt suggested, because in the past, although very infrequently, there have been cause for needing a reserve during the year after we've done all of the voting and allocating. So I wouldn't be opposed to keeping it in a reserve.
Thank you, Katie. Jason?
I would also be in favor of moving it forward to next year, keeping in reserve.
Okay. Well, of those who have spoken, there seems to be a strong interest in retaining the funds as opposed to allocating it to a particular project. Any other comments from other committee members regarding that surplus? And we can, when the time comes for making motions on projects, a motion can be initiated to allocate. I believe the way we do it is to allocate it into reserves. Is that correct, Holly? Or do we just take no action?
You can do it either way.
Okay.
A reserve would only be good until June 30th. So whatever you vote into a reserve fund would have to be spent by June 30th. So if you put it into a reserve fund, then we could quickly act on something for that dollar amount. If you just left it as is, it would essentially be the same thing. It would have to be utilized by June 30th, or it would roll over into next year's beginning funding numbers.
So maybe it would make sense to take no action on it, thus we could use it in the next 6 months. And if we did nothing, it would automatically roll over. Okay,
That's correct.
that makes sense. Tim,
Yeah, I will go on the record. I feel we should split that 20 and put 10 back to the signs and 10 to the trails and footbridges. But when we vote each and every project, I'm going to make that motion, but you wanted general comments on that. So there's my general comment.
any other comments on the 22,000 remaining? Okay. I'm somewhat split on the thought of the 22,000. I recognize that members that'll be here next year see the value of retaining it, not just for next year, but also for this spring if something arises. We do have administrative funds, but these are specific for potential needs in CPA projects. So I think there's value in both. I think we could consider making a determination on the 22,000 at this point. It seems as though that's the only item of uncertainty, or we could go project by project and not do anything with it. It's essentially making a decision if we don't choose to make a decision on the 22,000, unless somebody chooses to make a motion like Tim suggested of including it in a given project. Why don't we go project by project? I think that makes sense. I believe, and I'll open it up for committee discussion at this point, but I believe we are at a point where we're ready to commence with motions and votes on projects. I'd like Colley.
Yes, may I just make a suggestion that we just begin with the voting? And my suggestion always is that you start with the least controversial and the one that we must approve, which would be our debt service, that we start with the debt service and then you work down the projects. And if anybody would like to make friendly amendments, that is certainly their choice. And then those decisions will be made at that point.
That seems like a pretty good suggestion. I'm not sure if there are any controversial ones. Any other comments in addition to Holly's before we start looking at the individual projects for votes or debt service? I'm not seeing any hands. If I'm missing anyone, please raise your hand. Holly, can you clarify for us the debt service requirement that needs to get allocated? I'm not seeing it right away on the spreadsheet here.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what so 638,550 is what we currently have scheduled for debt for the year FY26. So this would be the very first number that we would need to vote on, because these are already previously committed projects that we must pay debt service on. Once again, if these last 4 projects do not get underway and payments made by June 30th, then these payments would not be made in fiscal year 26. It would roll over into the following fiscal year 27, if that makes sense. But we know that these 3 will definitely need payments. These 4 will possibly need payments, and the estimated amount is 638,550. So we would need to vote on that number first, because those projects were already previously committed.
Would anyone wish to make a motion regarding the payment of the debt service of 638,550? Matt, I see that your hand is raised.
I motion that we commit 638,550 for debt service.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second,
second that.
Jason, go.
Second by Jason, okay. And is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? I'm not seeing any discussion, so I'm going to proceed to a vote. The motion is to recommend or award $638,550 for debt service. Roll call vote. I'll commence by saying aye. Matt,
Aye.
Robin,
Hi.
Katie,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Did I get everyone? Tim, did I say?
Aye.
Okay. So the motion passes 8 in favor and 0 opposed, 0 absent. So I think we can go down the list, actually. Well, let's start with the Historical Commission. Amherst Historical Commission Modern Architecture Survey for 15,000. Would anyone wish to make a motion on this project?
I move that we approve $15,000 for the Amherst Historical Commission Modern Architecture Survey Project.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? Are you raising your hand, Holly?
I am trying. Yes, I'm sorry, Sam. But I am going to ask you to please make an exception for me. If you could do the votes in the order that they appear on the screen, so I can also be recording them at the same time instead of having to hop back and forth on. So if you could just do them, unfortunately, alphabetical order, it'll be much easier for me to do a second recording of the votes and make sure we have everybody.
Glad to after this one.
Thank you.
We're in the middle of one, but certainly. So we have a motion and a second regarding recommending the award of 15,000 for the Amherst Historical Commission Modern Architecture Survey proposal. We'll go in a roll call vote. Robin,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
David Williams,
You're not getting me? Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye as well. Did I miss anyone? So I hear you, the motion passes 8-0, and I'm guessing, Holly, that you were referring to the votes as well, being alphabetically in terms of the names? Yeah.
Yes, because I'm trying to record them on this spreadsheet as you make them just as a second. Yep.
Sorry about that. So the next proposal on the list would be the Amherst Affordable Housing Trust Development Funds. The town has come back to us with a dollar amount of 300,000. There's the potential of unknown what we would do with the surplus funds. Would anyone wish to make a motion on the Affordable Housing Trust?
I'll make.
Tim,
Yeah, I move that we approve 300,000 for the Affordable Housing Trust.
And I'll second.
we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion, so we can proceed to a vote. The motion is to approve $300,000 for the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Development Funds. Proceed with a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Next project on the list is the Jewish Community of Amherst Historic Preservation of Stained Glass Windows. The requested project amount is $210,000. Would anyone wish to make a motion on this application proposal?
I moved we approve $210,000 for the JCA Historic Preservation of Stained Glass Windows.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. The motion again is the approval of 200 and recommendation for the approval of $210,000 for the Jewish Community of Amherst Historic Preservation of Stained Glass Windows application. Proceed with a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. Next project on the list is the Amherst Cemetery Association Dickinson Farmhouse preservation. The updated requested amount is $88,520. Would anyone wish to make a motion on this project?
Excuse me, I'll keep going. I move that we approve $88,520 for the Amherst Cemetery Association Dickinson Farmhouse Preservation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I heard Bob second it. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Did anybody just say something? No, okay. So we have a motion and a second for the approval of 88,000, recommendation for the approval of $88,520 for the Amherst Cemetery Association Dickinson Farmhouse preservation. Going to proceed to a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
The next proposal on the list is the Town of Amherst North Cemetery fence. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the approval of funds for the Town of Amherst North Cemetery fence proposal?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the $40,000 toward the Town of Amherst North Cemetery fence with the condition that the town engages with the Historical Commission on the design of the proposed fence.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Any discussion? We have a motion and we have a second. Motion is that can you read it again, Robin, please?
Motion is that we approve $40,000 for the Town of Amherst North Cemetery fence with the condition that the town engages with the Historical Commission on the design of the proposed fence.
Okay, we can proceed to a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8 in favor, 0 opposed. Next project on the list is the Town of Amherst Recreation and Conservation signs. The dollar amount listed in the town feedback is $90,000. Would anyone wish to make a motion on this project? Tim,
I move that we approve $100,000 for this project by taking 10,000 of the projected surplus and adding it to the 90,000 as we see on the screen.
I will second.
so we have a motion and a second to approve to recommend $100,000 for the Town of Amherst Recreation Conservation signs. Discussion. Jason,
I think that the signs are important, but I think that the town probably will come back and ask for another round of funding for them. I would be opposed to the $10,000 in the signs and favor the $10,000 if we were going to split the expected surplus. I would rather see that money go to the trails and footbridges because I believe that the need to repair those is much greater than the need for signage.
Thank you, Jason. Robin?
Just deferring to the town's recommendation for funding, so I would go for the original amount.
Thank you, Robin. Other comments or discussion from committee members regarding the motion that's been made? Okay, so the motion on the floor is for the to vote to approve or recommend rather 100,000 for the town of Amherst recreation and conservation signs. We can proceed with a roll call vote. Matt.
Aye.
Jason,
Nay.
Robin,
I'm sorry, I will,
the motion is for the 100,000.
yeah, I will say. Oops. Aye.
I will say aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
The motion passes 7 in favor, 1 opposed, 0 abstained. Next item on our list is the Town of Amherst Mill River baseball fields, which is $80,000 currently. That's the proposal request. Would anyone wish to make a motion on this?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll move, we approve $80,000 for the Mill River baseball fields.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and we have a second to recommend approval for $80,000 for the Town of Amherst Mill River baseball fields application proposal. We can proceed to a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The next project on the list is the Town of Amherst War Memorial Bathhouse, Community Bathhouse, which is the updated dollar request amount is $500,000. Would anyone wish to make a motion regarding this application?
I'll make the motion to recommend $500,000 for the War Memorial, soon to be named Bathhouse.
I will second
Just-
that.
Who was the second?
Jason.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Would anyone accept a friendly amendment to rename it the Comfort Station? That's a joke, I'm sorry. That's not really a friendly amendment.
Okay. Any additional discussion? So we have a motion and we have a second for recommending $500,000 for the Town of Amherst War Memorial Community Bathhouse Project. We'll proceed with a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Next project on the list is Town of Amherst Trails and Footbridges. The Town of Amherst has come back to us with a recommended amount of $120,000 for this project. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the Trails and Footbridges project?
I would like to move that we approve the Trails and Footbridges project at 130,000 with $10,000 from the estimated surplus being utilized for the Trails and Footbridges in excess of the 120,000.
Do we have a second?
I'll second
Second.
that.
I heard Matt. So we have a motion and a second. I'll restate what my understanding of the motion is, that the motion is for the recommend the approval of $130,000 for the Town of Amherst Trails and Footbridges application proposal. Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing any discussion. I'd like to proceed to a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8 in favor, 0 opposed. Next project application on the list is the Town of Amherst Groff Park accessibility application, and the dollar amount of that proposal as requested is $100,000. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we recommend the approval of $100,000 for the Town of Amherst Groff Park accessibility application. Is there a second?
I will
Second.
second that motion.
I heard a second from David. Is there any discussion?
I just confirmed the second was David Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the motion is the recommend the approval of $100,000 for the Town of Amherst Groff Park accessibility application. Proceed with a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The next project on the list is the Town of Amherst Parks Equipment application. The application had a requested funding amount of $90,000. Would anyone wish to make a motion related to this application?
I move that we fund the Town of Amherst Parks Equipment Project at the amount of $90,000.
I will
Is there a
second that
second?
motion.
Is there a second?
Jason?
Second.
Okay, I've had an audio. So can someone confirm for me who seconded this?
David.
David Williams, okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? The motion is to recommend the approval of $90,000 for the Town of Amherst Parks equipment application. We'll proceed to a roll call vote. Matt,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
I will vote aye. Tim,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. It's my understanding that we have considered and voted on all of the applications before our committee for the fiscal year 2026 cycle. We also have voted regarding recommendations and confirmation of the debt service. Holly, are you aware of any other items that are financially based that we need to make a vote on related to debt or anything else? I'm not cognizant of any.
Not at this time, no.
Okay. So this has gone quite smoothly, and it seems to me that is doing a large reason for that is the town's demonstrated flexibility in coming back to us with updated potential proposal requests. So I'd like to thank the town staff for their deliberations internally on what might work as a means of achieving the overall objectives of the town, and certainly I think made matters a little bit easier for our committee. So thank you. I'm not cognizant of other items we need to address at this point in time. There is a remaining remaining surplus of 2,539, but my understanding is we can just let that sit without a recommendation. It could be available if we wish this current fiscal year 25. And if we take no action and June 30th comes around, it will roll over into the fiscal year 26 funding. Is that correct, Holly?
That is correct.
Okay.
Just so that folks know, the only requirement is that you allocate out at least 10% to the community housing, historic preservation, and open space. And we've more than met our 10% obligation, so there is no other requirements. You could leave as little or as much as you want in the surplus, as long as you've given 10% to the 3 categories. So we are fine.
Thank you, Holly. From an administrative standpoint, we have minutes that remain to be added to the town website. Holly, I believe you have the minutes from 3 of the meetings, which would be the July 29th, November 14th, and November 21st. We're awaiting minutes, draft minutes from the meeting of November 7th and December 12th. And then subsequently, we'll await the draft minutes from this meeting. So there'll be 3 yet to be approved sets of minutes and to be added to the town site. I don't think we have other items we need to address at this time. The process for those listening is that our recommendations, a report is generated that I'll generate with Holly that indicates the financial status of the CPA funding overall, including this year's awards with descriptions. That gets sent to town council and the town council finance committee. Usually it gets referred to the town council finance committee, who then votes recommendations on our CPA recommendations. Town council then receives any input from finance and chooses to take up our recommendations for a vote. The town council is the final awarding authority for our CPA recommendations, and they can only make awards based up to the dollar amount that we have recommended. They can't process or generate awards greater than the amount our committee has recommended. They can award less, but that usually takes place later, maybe February. Holly, do you happen to have any estimated time frame for this?
I do not. It will be, sometime in the spring. It could be, end of January, February, March. It will be up to the town council on when they'll add this to their agenda.
So I'll generate descriptions for you. I think we may have a meeting in the spring, but we have time to enjoy the holidays here. And I'm not sure if any committee members have anything they'd like to add to our meeting or any topics that we didn't consider. If they do, please speak up. But I'd like to thank our committee members for their participation, attendance, and thoughtful consideration and collaboration, I would say. And I'd also, again, like to thank the town staff for their collaboration. I'd like to thank Dave for timely responses to these inquiries. And I'd like to thank Holly for all of the information and management that she does in association with our deliberations on these important projects. We certainly wouldn't be able to function without significant assistance from town staff. So I want to thank Holly and Dave, as well as the other town members. I'd like to thank the input from committee members, and Jason, thank you for your, you may be a new member, but you have comments and inquiries that are helpful to me as a committee member, and I assume they're helpful to others watching. Dave Zomack.
And no, I just wanted to echo kind of thanks back to the committee. It's a pleasure working with you all. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of double thanks to Holly. Holly does, from a town staff point, she does all the hard work. I come in for the fun stuff. And I've got 5 or 6 people behind me, department heads and planners, and great support from people like Amy Rozecki and Alan Snow and Nate Malloy and others. But Holly, day in, day out, Holly's the one who is really getting us with you to the finish line. So I really double, triple thanks to Holly, and look forward to working with you as these projects move forward.
Thank you. Katie.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to Holly, especially for her patience with us, and Sam, to you for your leadership. Really appreciate you guiding us through this. And I've been on this committee for, I think, 4 years now or so, and we've never had this kind of unanimity. So I've been impressed with our ability to get through things quickly and unanimously. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie. Bob.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. Jason.
Yeah, I'll also second what Katie said, and thank you, Sam, for the kind words and for guiding us through this process very smoothly. And thank you very much, Holly and Dave. You know, I think everyone appreciates the work that you all do, and the flexibility coming back to this to help make this much more of a easy process. So yeah, thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed being on this committee. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tim.
Yes, and I want to thank everyone for a reasonably quick meeting so I can visit the Amity Place Comfort Station.
I'll give credit to, I would say, Robin and Katie in terms of feedback on how to have a smoother meeting. I tried to take into account some of the recommendations. And secondly, I'd like to give credit to the committee for their succinctness in communication style. I guess I would say that, don't take this wrong, I think Matt Kane has converted me to move towards his clarity of conversation, at least 10%. David Williams.
Just want to say thanks for the leadership and also the cooperation from the entire committee. And I would say over the last maybe 5 years, 6 years, this has moved very smoothly this year. And I think we can contribute that to your leadership and our participation. Thanks.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you for your thoughts. So again, I anticipate we'll probably have a meeting at some point in the spring. It's certainly possible the town may come to us with some items. I look forward to updates from town staff regarding the track and field project, which is, as Dave indicated, going out to bid or is slated to go out to bid in January. It's been a long road. I'm hopeful that comes to fruition, and there may be some other questions, Dave and Holly, that I might have for you. I can communicate directly, and also for committee members, certainly feel free to reach out to me at any point in time with thoughts, questions. And Dave Williams, is your hand raised anew?
Yes, it is, because I talked about the committee, but the leadership from the town administrators, Dave and Holly, was very supportive, and appreciate that as well.
Thank you, David. I'll second that. So I guess we are all set here. I hope that we all have a calm and tranquil holiday season. Before I depart, I am going to, I see Holly's hand is raised.
Yes, if I may just very quickly, I know that in the past, Sam, you've helped me write the report.
Yeah.
And is it something that we're going to send out to folks for comments, or are we going to deal with that internally? Just what is the process for getting that final report done? Do we send a draft version?
Well, what we've done the last 3 years is generate descriptions and move it forward. I'd be glad to send it out to the committee if they want to have email comments. I hadn't considered that. I guess we can ask the committee if they would like to receive a copy of the draft prior to it going to finance, or and if you would just kind of raise your hand. The numbers all arrive from the town staff, Holly, and I provide descriptions with edits. It probably would be helpful for us to generate a draft and just inform the committee of the draft and let them provide comments if they wish. I don't think we need a vote on the report, but rather we can just inform them, and if there's feedback, they can provide it.
And just a couple of, well, if you wanted to finish that discussion, if folks want to see the report or just have us move forward, I just think that we should check in on that.
Any comments from committee members on this? No comments, so.
So I guess it's up to us. Okay, and then the other thing that I would just ask is anybody who has not submitted minutes, if you could please try to get the minutes to be, I mean, obviously not this week, after the holidays, you know, by January 1st, if folks could get me any outstanding minutes so I can just account for everything and get those up to date. My suggestion would be that we convene a meeting sometime in the spring to go over all of the minutes that we have that we need to review. And my hope would be in the spring to reach out to folks with prior projects and do some check-ins, and likely some of the old projects that have not moved forward. We can discuss whether we would like to you know, basically rescind them. And that is something that we've unfortunately not had a lot of time for in the past, and I think we should spend some time on it before the next cycle is reviewing prior projects. Unfortunately, not had a lot of time to gather that information for you, but I would hope to do that in the springtime and convene a meeting and later in the spring just to review those things as well.
Thank you, Holly. It makes sense for us to have the latest information on the status of prior projects. Any information would be helpful for the committee, and it seems to be a appropriate time frame in the spring to discuss that as well. So thank you all. Again, it's good to see you. I'm glad that we are finishing relatively early. I hope you all have a great holiday break, and I guess we'll be in communication and talk to each other in the new year. But again, let myself and Holly know of any questions or needs in any order. I have no topics the chair did not anticipate. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:41 p.m.
If I may, David's hand is still up. I just want to make sure that you don't have an additional question, David.
No question.
Okay.
I thought you said you adjourning the meeting. Bye-bye.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for the.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy
Take
holidays.
care.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
everyone, for the kind words. I appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.